Today I'm going to talk about belonging versus fitting in. How these two things might appear to us as something almost identical and how different they truly are. I asked my followers to share the difference in their mind between these two words. Kiara says that for her, belonging is the freedom to be myself among others and to be accepted and celebrated for that. Versus fitting in is adapting my behavior to make others comfortable. Another follower says that belonging feels like being fully seen and still accepted, while fitting in feels like adjusting parts of yourself to be accepted. Real belonging doesn't ask you to shrink, just to show up as you are. I think these two reflections are beautiful, and in my experience, they describe the difference between these two terms really well. I also want to bring in the quote from Maya Angelou. You are only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place. No place at all. The price is high. The reward is great. I didn't really understand it in the beginning, how it is possible to belong no place. Right now, I really well understand the difference between belonging versus fitting in, and it makes it quite painful to realize that for my whole life, until very recently, I didn't fully understood what real belonging truly means. I grew up in Siberia. Growing up, belonging wasn't really imaginable. It was mostly trying really hard to fit in into whatever environment we were surrounded by. So at school, at university, at the workplace, as I watched my parents, the most important thing was to be whatever is expected from you. The most valuable thing was to blend with the crowd, don't stand out, don't bring too much attention to yourself. This is the safest strategy. And I think that I really absorbed this way of moving through life by constantly monitoring the environment around me and coming up with the ways to fit in into that environment. And what changed this understanding is many different experiences. I think the biggest one was immigration. Once I moved to the UK, I started using my known strategies of trying to figure out what is expected here. And it was much more difficult than doing the same thing in Siberia because UK was very diverse. The London was very diverse. And I've seen many more different people around me and many different ways of life, many different professional pathways, many different physical appearances and expressions. So it really widened my understanding of what is acceptable. Only recently I realized that in order to truly belong, what is required of me is not monitoring the surrounding, the environment, what this group of people might like to see in me, what role they might want me to play, but instead showing up as myself, not constantly adjusting and seeing where I can feel at home while doing so. So, fitting in asks us to constantly adjust our behavior in order to be accepted by a certain group or environment, while belonging is when we can truly feel at home by showing up as who we are. The difference is tremendous. One of the books that I read is Brené Brown's Brave in the Wilderness. What really stood out for me was the point when Brené was talking about family as the essential place and the very first place where we truly need to belong. It's a human need to belong within our family. And she is sharing an example. So her family was moving states and cities, and when they moved to a different city, she was really looking forward to trying out for the dance team, to being a part of the school dance team as a way to find her belonging in this new place. And she tried really hard and she didn't make it to the dance team. And the hardest part in this experience, as she describes it, wasn't not making it to the dance team. It wasn't that her family didn't address this failure. They didn't acknowledge, they didn't stand on her side when it was what she really needed to be seen. It is hard and we are here with you. Instead, there was just silence. And I was reflecting on my own experience and my own family. So I remember while I was studying at school, I think it was middle school or closer to high school, but I've had many difficulties with my behavior. And my mother was quite often asked to come to school to talk to the teachers. And as I look back, the most difficult part wasn't the fact that teachers complained about my behavior. It was the fact that my mother standed with the teachers in these situations. So I didn't feel the support within my family. And I translated it, yeah, I think even unconsciously, I translated it as in order to belong within my family, I need to behave properly at school. So belonging within my family at that point became conditional. And conditional belonging is fitting in, really. So it led to the strategy of behaving properly as expected at school, following all the rules, achieving the right achievements, getting the right grades. And this is not the true belonging. And it can lead one very far from their true desires, from their true passion, or whatever it is that they may enjoy on their life path. So I want to read to you one thing from the book. Not belonging in our families is one of the most dangerous hurts. That's because it has the power to break our heart, our spirit, and our sense of self worth. It broke all three for me. And when those things break, there are only three outcomes. First outcome: you live in constant pain and seek relief by numbing or inflicting it on others. The second outcome: you deny your pain, and your denial ensures that you pass it on to those around you and down to your children. Or the third outcome: you find the courage to own the pain and develop a level of empathy and compassion for yourself and others that allows you to spot hurt in the world in a unique way. Yeah, I've certainly tried the first two strategies, and those didn't lead me to a good place. The courage to own the pain is the only way that I found to overcome that pain. Actually, I want to stay on the point of belonging to our families a little bit longer, because now, as a mother myself and having my own children, I feel that this is one of my most important jobs, to create this sense of belonging for my children within the family. So, whatever comes their way, whatever they experience, I want my children to always feel that at home they will be accepted for who they are, and for whatever failures or wins they experience on their way. And I feel very strongly about it. It is likely coming from my own experience of not having this unconditional belonging, that I feel every child and every person truly needs in order to deal with whatever difficulties we experience in our life. And there are too many difficulties in the outside world. There was a research at University of Chicago which involved 135 people who had been identified as highly lonely. Those people were given very extensive personality tests. And what these tests found is pretty much what we can expect, that lonely people are also anxious, have low self esteem, pessimistic, and are afraid of other people disliking them. They invited a psychiatrist to hypnotize those people. They spread those people into groups. Group A, under hypnosis, was led to remember periods of their lives when they felt especially lonely, while Group B was hypnotized to remember quite the opposite, the periods of their lives when they felt especially connected to other people. And then both groups of people were given the same personality tests to do them all over again. And the results, the difference was quite stunning. People who were triggered to remember feeling lonely were radically more depressed than people who were triggered to feel connected. So, the cause of depression finding itself in the loneliness in the first place was pretty obvious in this research. And it confirmed that we truly need connections. We truly need to feel the sense of belonging in order to feel mentally well. Another thing that I want to talk about is coming from one of my favorite authors and teachers, Martha Beck. In her book, Finding Your Own North Star, Martha Beck talks about how each one of us has our own group of everybody. So when we talk about changes in our lives, we may refer to everybody. Like, if I quit my job and start my own music band, everybody would think I'm crazy. And essentially, this everybody is usually a very particular group of people who we use as an internal committee on whether something that we do is going to be approved. Like, if you were to come up with three particular people who you think would judge some of your choices, you would likely easily come up with these people. So if we look back at the example that if I quit my job and start my own music band, everybody would think I'm crazy. Those everybody are usually your mom, your boss, and your like a couple of your close colleagues. So it's not quite everybody in the sense of the entire world, it's just a very very narrow group of people who you use as a reference when you think about decisions in your life. In Brené's book, Brave in the Wilderness, she is sharing that she used to really hate writing her research because she would imagine all of her most critical colleagues and professors reading it and questioning what is she sharing in those researches. So she wouldn't share some observations and outcomes that don't really go along with any existing academic knowledge or what her colleagues previously discovered. And in order to be true to herself and to her work and to truly share what she wanted to share, she had to change that group of everybody in her mind who were her most critical people to the other group of people who are themselves practicing and living courageously. Like she names Joanne Rowling or Maya Angelou. So now when she writes, she thinks about those people who would definitely stand on her side when she's doing something brave. And it is a mental exercise to try and change your group of everybody to allow yourself to live more truly, to express yourself more authentically, and find your true belonging. To summarize what I talked about today is I believe belonging beliefs with truly belonging to ourselves first, to knowing our own values, to understanding our worth, following the causes and the passions that are truly ours, that we would follow if no one ever watched what we do. And only from that place we can truly find our people, our communities, and feel the sense of belonging no matter where we find ourselves. Fitting in is a survival strategy that is often confused with belonging. This is when we feel that it is too risky to be ourselves, to express ourselves. So we start to monitor, to adjust, and to play the roles that we think everyone around us is expecting from us. So true belonging, it requires us to risk not fitting in, and it is the only path to find where we truly belong is by risking, not conforming. I also want to bring in a couple of reflection questions for you today. As you answer them, notice what comes up. You may write your answer or just think about it. Question 1. In what areas of your life do you feel you are fitting in rather than belonging? Second question. Where did you first learn that belonging could be conditional? The third question. Who is your everybody? Who are the people you imagine when you are saying, the people would think that I am something and something? And the last question. What may change in your life if you choose true belonging over fitting in? I find that reflecting on such questions is a great way to learn more about yourself, about what the true desires are behind the survival strategies that many of us adapted during our lives. So I want to close today's episode by saying that the deepest sense of belonging we may find comes when we stop abandoning ourselves, when we find the true belonging to ourselves, and when we bring this whole person wherever we go. When we are brave to not fit in, when we are courageous to say the things we want to say and do the things we want to do, even if we don't know how everyone around us would respond to them. So, in order to truly belong wherever we are, we first need to belong to ourselves. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. And I'll see you on the honest place in 2 weeks.